we had a later night with the show, and I was literally stepping into my bed to call it a night.
Oh no! Oh God!
And
really?
I said, and
what happened?
Pete Nakos, God bless Pete Nakos. He's up grinding, working at 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night. Well, Nebraska adds a kicker, Kyle Cunanan. And I was going to let you try that name, but I'm going to.
Oh, it's not too bad. It's not too hard, actually.
Jim Rose nailed it on KFB Sport. I'm like, you know what, Jim? I think Jim got that one down.
Hey, Cunanan's not that tough.
No.
Come on now.
But Kyle Cunanan signed with Nebraska. The kicker, he was at Cal, but he was at Charlotte the previous 2 years, redshirted this past year, played 3 games.
At Charlotte.
Went through spring ball at Cal, has left Cal, not for he was going to be their starting kicker, but the major that he wants to go into, construction management, he was led to believe he was going to be able to enter that program when he got there, and then come to find out he couldn't. So that was a really big deal, which led to him going into the portal. And Nebraska has that program, obviously, but he's they're looking for a kicker, and Kyle Cunanan is coming in to compete now to win the job against Tristan Alvano, John Hall, your 2023 and 2024 starters. But this is quite a development.
Oh, yeah.
And it tells you that Mike Eckler is going to put his full stamp on this thing. I mean, he's really, really, looking at it at a whole, like what needs to improve for us to win in the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah, he's been pretty aggressive. And by the way, all this information is straight from, you did an interview with Cunanan last night. So it's not, this isn't secondhand. This is straight from him. I listened to the interview. You got a lot from him. It was excellent. And okay, now you had gotten wind last week that Nebraska might add a kicker. So it was on our radar, right? You had gotten wind that they were going to do it.
It was in my tunnel talk that I had to go up this morning that, that don't sleep on the thought of adding a kicker. Then it happened.
Right. And people now, so they wonder why. Well, John Hole had a quad injury this spring. John Hole was 10 for 15 last year. He made 9 of his last 10, including that memorable 54-yarder at Ohio State. I thought Hole had done enough to solidify himself as maybe the guy making 9 of his last 10, but the injury, then there's this quad injury. And with a kicker, it's kind of risky. Alvano in 2023 was 9 for 15, same as this kid, by the way. The same as this kid was as a freshman at Charlotte. So very similar. And statistically, Alvano had that remarkable moment, Sean, against Purdue when he made a 55-yarder in Lincoln.
Second longest kick in the Memorial Stadium.
Longest by a freshman.
Other than the Alex Henry.
Right. The 57-yarder.
To beat Colorado.
Right. So, what I'm getting at here is Alvano and Hole, similar statistically. Alvano 9 for 15 in his year as a starter. Hole 10 for 15. Both had some big moments, but both, there's still some questions, right? So here we are with Kyle Cunanan.
And what we learned is, I don't know if they think Alvano and Hall are consistent enough ball strikers.
Explain that.
And he broke it down, Cunanan, to me last night, as well as somebody else I spoke to after the fact last night too, that, to kick in Memorial Stadium, you've got to be a good, consistent ball striker.
Clean.
Because of the wind.
Right.
And you can't miss your strike because the wind will do tricks with the ball.
Right.
And we've seen that. And you love my analogies. You got guys like Alvano and Hall. They have the ability to hit 35, 40-foot, 3-pointer shots in a basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, they don't make their free throws.
Mm-hmm.
And
sometimes, yeah.
And you've got, I think, Nebraska to win in this league. Yeah, it's great to hit a 55-yard field goal, but you've got to hit a 40 to 45-yard kick at a 90% rate.
Or a 39-yard kick like Hole had against Illinois to win it and missed it, right?
Right.
It was a 39-yarder. That's almost got to be automatic, right?
And those are the situations where, you go back to Iowa. Iowa has beaten Nebraska on multiple walk-off field goals in November games.
And I bet those guys are clean ball strikers.
And yeah, to kick like you did last year in Kinnick Stadium at that distance, you got to be a clean ball striker.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's common sense, but sometimes we don't even think about common sense. And sometimes common sense needs to be spoken. And when you told me this, before I read your story, it made so much sense to me, but I'd never thought of it in 30 years. You need a guy, not necessarily a guy that, like you're saying, I'm thinking about who was the guy, Jordan Congdon, who wasn't going to hit a 50-yarder, but he was good from 40 in because I think he hit it clean all the time, right? I mean, is that your recollection?
Yeah, it's like golfing with a guy that doesn't drive it far, but he's pretty good.
It's down the middle. It's down the middle, right? Always down the middle.
I do think the Brett Maher factor here, like this is where it's an advantage. Like he can offer, Eckler knows special teams, but Maher kicked for several years in the NFL, and he kicked in this stadium as well. Mm-hmm. So he came on late, if you remember. It wasn't like Maher was like a part of the action, but now
I don't remember that.
He can chime in a little bit more and say, here's what's going on. Like we're not hitting the ball clean enough.
Right. Maher, that was another interesting part of your story. Maher's, he's staying here. He's not part of the change. He's staying with Eckler. And he was a big part of this visit. It was just Maher, Eckler, and Dylan Ryola greeted him, which again, Dylan, I don't take for granted that this is what Cunanan told you when I first got there. Actually, Dylan Ryola came right up to me and welcomed me as soon as I got there. I mean, that's pretty important, right? That the high profile quarterback is there to greet this kicker, right? Mm-hmm. With it, that they obviously want. Yeah, I thought the interview was really revealing. Like that kind of thing to me is revealing. Wow, Dylan's there. Maybe he was just there. Maybe he was just there and it happened by happenstance. But the fact that Dylan's just always there is meaningful to me. Dylan's just always around the facility.
Yeah, and this is a difference maker if it works out, because how many moments do you have in a game, a 3rd and 8 from the 42, or a 4th and 8 from the 32?
We see it all,
or the 28. Let's say the 28.
Okay,
and the situation Nebraska's been in, they've had to go for that.
I know, and those are critical because we always talk about, we belabor the point, but it's this close game discussion, and that's a big part of the close game discussion.
Third down management,
ability to hit a 39-yarder, a 38-yarder within Memorial Stadium with swirling winds is not easy.
Well, and I will say this though, the snap issue was a big part of the problems last year.
100.
But that falls back on coaches because that was not recognized before it was too late.
Right.
And that probably cost them a couple of games.
That hurts to hear that.
I mean, for sure the Illinois game.
Yeah. That hurts to hear that.
But
because that can't be it. That part just has to be automatic.
Well, you think about the games they won where snap issues were an issue, though. Rutgers. Uh-huh. Well, and also the blocking was an issue too on some of the punts.
Right. Oh, those were just block kicks is what you're getting at. And we covered this program for 25 years. You, me, 30. And we just didn't see that ever. Like it wasn't even a thought for so many years, right?
The snapping speed too should be so fast that you shouldn't see things like this happening unless it's like a perfectly executed block. And it felt like there were more missed snaps last year as well as assignment misses.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of things, but
but the bottom line is 3 guys now. John Holt, Tristan Albano, and Kyle Cunanan will compete for that job.
That's one of the best battles going into camp. But if you're those 2 gentlemen, you wonder how much they knew about this.
Albano and Holt?
Yeah, if they had any word that, hey, this is what we're doing, just so you know, or did they find out like everybody else found out?
Are you obligated as a coach to tell them we're bringing somebody in?
I don't know.
I'd tell them that we're looking. I just tell them we're looking, and then when you bring them in, there's competition. The big question, the big kind of wild card question in this discussion is John Holt's health. Is John Holt, will he be okay for August? So if I'm John Holt, I mean, if I'm in John Hole's camp, I'm thinking, is John going to be ready on, say, August 1 to compete for that job? Full go. Is he ready to roll on August 1? Now, we don't know that.
Well, and Alvano was on somewhat of a pitch count where they had to, I mean, his injury in
Went this spring?
yes. Like
Okay.
they limited him a little bit. What he went through in terms of surgery and injury was much more significant than I think any of us realized.
Okay. We're answering the question right now of why you brought in the cow kicker or the Charlotte kicker.
Because that right there could be what you dealt with that snapper a year ago.
Okay, because
you don't want to be having to have Lane McCullum coming from the safety position to kick a game winner in a Big Ten game.
Yeah, what I'm asking you to do is put yourself in Mike Eckler's shoes. Wait a second. John's got a quad injury and Alvano's on a pitch count. We better get somebody else in here, right? We better get some. I can't. This is my job.
And it looks like the 105 is not going to be enforced as far as the hard limit. So why not? It's not like everybody can stay where they're at too. I mean, the way it looks, it's not like you're gonna have to tell somebody to leave the roster.
Okay, now are they paying this kid to come in?
He'll be a scholarship guy.
Guy.
I didn't get into the parameters of like rev share and whatnot, but he's getting a scholarship.
Okay.
So I mean that's pretty good for a specialist
100
to get your school paid for.
Huge news. I mean, it's just gigantic news that happened.
And it fell under the radar because it was so late.
Yeah. Again, though, I want to give you credit for something because you had said last week that you think they're going to go get a kicker, and then here we are talking about a week later.